They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but sometimes it's best served at 3 a.m. with a fleet of tow trucks. Picture this. You wake up to the acrid smell of fresh asphalt burning your nostrils. Your private gravel driveway, the one you paid $80,000 for specifically to avoid HOA control, has been paved overnight without permission. Your fence posts lie scattered like broken teeth. Your surveyor markers sledgehammered into oblivion. Then you find the letter. The HOA president actually dared to bill you $3,200 for this community upgrade and demand monthly maintenance fees. The smugness practically drips off the page as she explains how your rustic road needed proper standards. What she didn't know is that I'm a retired commercial developer who owns a secret towing contract with every impound lot in the county. By morning, every single car belonging to her little HOA mafia had vanished into thin air like they never existed. What would you do if someone destroyed your property overnight? Where are you watching from? And what's your worst HOA nightmare? My name's Garrett Rockwell, and 3 years ago, I thought I'd found paradise. After selling my concrete construction business in Dallas, my wife Elena and I purchased our dream property, 3 acres of rolling Texas hill country on the edge of the Willowbrook Commons subdivision. The house sat 400 yards back from the main road, connected by a beautiful gravel driveway that crunched satisfyingly under tires like breakfast cereal and kept speeds naturally low. Here's the key detail that saved my sanity and my wallet. I specifically purchased the access road separately. Not part of the subdivision, not subject to HOA rules, completely private. The previous owner, George Blackwood, was a bright old rancher who carved out that road access in 1987 specifically to avoid neighborhood politics. I paid an extra $80,000 for that privilege, and it was worth every penny. Elena's a high school principal, a salt-of-the-earth practical person with a laugh that can diffuse any argument. Our daughter, Sophia, was 15, focused on college prep and avoiding teenage drama. We'd moved here for peace, privacy, and the kind of quiet family time you can't buy in the city. Every evening, we'd sit on our back porch listening to mockingbirds while the sweet smell of Elena's jasmine plants drifted across the yard. Enter Vivian Ashworth, the human embodiment of a parking ticket. Picture the most entitled real estate agent you've ever met. Multiply that by 10, then give her a governorship and a position on the Homeowner Association Board of Directors. Vivian drove a white BMW X5 with vanity plates reading Prop Ken, and yes, she thought that was clever. She'd been HOA president for 3 years, during which she'd sued 12 neighbors for violations ranging from non-conforming mailbox colors to excessive bird feeder activity. The woman measured grass height with an actual ruler. I'm not kidding. She carried it in her purse like other people carry breath mints. Vivian specialized in what I call premium community management, which meant finding creative ways to squeeze money from homeowners while inflating property values for her real estate business. She had this talent for making reasonable requests sound like community emergencies and personal preferences sound like sacred covenants. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was enjoying my coffee when the rumble of heavy machinery shattered our peaceful morning routine. Outside my kitchen window, a crew was spreading fresh asphalt over my carefully maintained gravel road. The acrid smell of hot tar mixed with diesel fumes burned my nostrils as I realized what was happening. The foreman, when confronted, showed me a work order signed by Vivian, Community Access Improvement Project, Willowbrook Grand Entrance. My fence posts had been pulled up like weeds and tossed in a pile. The metal surveyor markers I'd had professionally installed were gone, sledgehammered into scrap metal. Apparently, where my private road met the subdivision's entrance, they'd installed decorative stone pillars with brass plaques reading Willowbrook Commons Grand Entrance, Este 223. They were literally paving over my property rights. I stormed to the HOA office in the strip mall down the road, my boots still covered in gravel dust. Vivian sat behind her desk like a queen holding court, surrounded by real estate awards and community service plaques. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass, and her perfume hung in the air like expensive gilt. "We're bringing your rustic access up to community standards," she said, drawing out rustic as if it were a communicable disease. She showed me an enlarged plot map with my road highlighted in a yellow marker labeled Future Community Thoroughfare. The previous owner verbally agreed to eventual road sharing, she claimed. No documentation, of course, just her word against the dead ranchers. The next day brought a certified letter on official HOA letterhead, with an assessment of $3,200 for road improvement, monthly maintenance fees of $85, and a 30-day notice to install landscaping in accordance with community standards. The kicker is threats of liens and legal action for non-compliance. Elena was furious. I could hear her slamming cabinet doors from 3 rooms away. Sophia's friends immediately started using our new driveway as a parking lot and skateboard path, their wheels grinding against the fresh asphalt outside our bedroom window every morning at 7 a.m. But here's what Vivian didn't know. George Blackwood had included deed language that would make her legal team very, very sorry they'd ever heard my name. Vivian didn't waste time savoring her victory. Within a week, she'd installed decorative stone entrance markers at the road junction where my private property met the subdivision. Brass plaques gleamed in the morning sun. Willowbrook Commons grand entrance established in 2023. The audacity was breathtaking. She'd literally branded my driveway as community property. But that wasn't enough. Oh no. Vivian was just getting warmed up. Next came the security company. I'm talking about a uniformed guard in a golf cart patrolling what Vivian now calls the community thoroughfare. Tuesday morning. I'm heading to town for supplies when this rent-a-cop flags me down at the end of my own driveway. "Excuse me, sir," he says, clipboard ready, as if he's processing a criminal. "I need to see some ID and verify your authorization to use this community access road." The metallic taste of pure rage filled my mouth. "This is my property," I said, keeping my voice level. "That's my house right there." He shrugs. "Ma'am says all vehicles require verification and adherence to community safety protocols." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of getting carded to drive to my own house. But this was serious business. Back in my construction days, I'd seen developers try this exact trick. Create a facade, then use security theater to intimidate property owners into submission. The technical term is extortion, but Vivian probably called it community enhancement. I filed a complaint with the county planning office the next morning. Here's something most people don't know about construction. Everything requires permits. Everything. You can't pour a sidewalk, move a drainage ditch, or install road signage without paperwork. Vivian's crew had violated at least 3 municipal codes that I could see. The county records confirmed my suspicions. 0 permits for any road work in our area. Within 48 hours, they posted a stop work order on Vivian's pretty new entrance pillars. The sight of that bright orange notice fluttering in the Texas wind was better than Christmas morning. Vivian's response was swift and predictably petty. Emergency HOA board meeting Friday night. I wasn't invited, obviously, but my neighbor Marcus Webb, a retired Marine with excellent hearing and a talent for evening dog walks, happened to stroll past the clubhouse around meeting time. According to Marcus, Vivian spent an hour ranting about how I was obstructing community progress and undermining property values. The board voted unanimously to fine me $500 per day for failure to maintain the common area. The woman was literally looking for me because I wasn't meeting her standards. The chutzpah was almost admirable. The certified letter arrived on Monday morning, officially declaring me persona non grata in my own neighborhood. I'd been banned from a place I legally owned. Even the post office clerk seemed embarrassed handing it over. But Vivian was just getting started with the psychological warfare. She organized what she called a community awareness campaign, essentially turning my neighbors into an unpaid PR firm. The message was simple. Garrett Rockwell's gravel road endangered school buses, and his legal obstruction would tank everyone's property values. Elena came home from grocery shopping, visibly shaken after 3 neighbors cornered her with concerned warnings about my legal troubles. The smell of her usual lavender shampoo was overwhelmed by the stress sweat from that ambush. "They made it sound like you're some criminal," Elena said, her hands trembling slightly as she unpacked groceries. Janet Morrison actually asked if we were having financial problems and needed to sell our house. While Vivian played neighborhood politics, I was playing a longer game. I called my former business partner, Dustin Chavez, now a traffic engineering consultant, and ordered a professional land survey with GPS coordinates. Cost $3,200. Exactly what Vivian was trying to charge me for destroying my property. Poetic justice has a price tag. I also contacted Rex Donovan, a retired sheriff's deputy who does private investigations. Rex has a talent for uncovering public records that other people prefer to keep private. Within 3 days, he'd uncovered something fascinating. Vivian had been buying up surrounding properties through shell companies for 18 months. The pieces started clicking together. I remembered reading about something called prescriptive easement during my contractor days. The legal theory is that long-term use can create property rights, but it requires over 10 years of continuous documented use. Vivian would need to prove the community had been using my road since 2013, which was mathematically impossible since I'd gated it every winter until 2019. I had receipts for everything: gate installation, private property signs, and snow plowing services that specifically excluded community vehicles. George Blackwood had done the same thing every winter since 1987. Vivian's historical usage claims were about as solid as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. The mini-twist arrived Friday afternoon via certified mail from Piton and Associates. Ironically, the same law firm that had handled my business sale 3 years ago. They knew I had money, which made their cease and desist letter particularly bold. They claimed my survey stakes constituted destruction of community property and threatened a $50,000 lawsuit, plus attorney fees. The irony was delicious, threatening to sue me for surveying my own land while defending someone who'd actually destroyed my property. That weekend, Elena found me in the garage organizing files and chuckled. "You look like a general planning a campaign." "Funny you should say that," I replied, pulling out George Blackwood's carefully crafted deed restrictions. Because that's exactly what this is. Vivian had clearly decided that subtlety was for amateurs. Her next move was a deliberate act of psychological warfare disguised as community engagement. She organized daily beautification walks, groups of 8 to 10 HOA supporters who would stroll past our house with the casual intensity of military reconnaissance. They'd stroll, taking photos with their phones, stopping to point at our landscaping, and whispering among themselves like neighborhood paparazzi. The clicking of camera shutters became our new morning soundtrack, replacing the peaceful bird songs we'd moved here to enjoy. Vivian herself led these expeditions, clipboard in hand, documenting what she called safety violations and code infractions. Sophia started closing her bedroom curtains during the day. "It's like living in a fishbowl," she complained, and she wasn't wrong. The Facebook posts started appearing that afternoon. Photos of our perfectly normal house, accompanied by passive-aggressive captions, such as "interesting landscaping choices" and "wondering if this meets fire safety standards." The comment sections turned into digital lynch mobs, where neighbors debated everything from the mailbox color to Elena's garden gnomes. But Vivian's administrative masterpiece was yet to come. Somehow, the county planning office had suddenly lost my original survey documents. The new clerk, a young woman who resembled Vivian's mini-me and conveniently shared her last name, claimed there was no record of my permits or property boundaries. "You'll need to reapply for a driveway access permit," she said with a smile that could freeze hell. "The filing fee is $12,800, and the process typically takes 6 to 8 months. During this time, she explained with obvious pleasure that my road access would be questionable under county regulations. I dealt with enough municipal corruption during my construction years to recognize a shakedown when I saw one. This wasn't bureaucracy. It was extortion with a government stamp. While I was drowning in paperwork, Rex was earning every dollar of his investigative fee. His background check on Vivian revealed something that made my blood run cold. She'd been assembling a property empire through shell companies like some suburban real estate vampire. 6 different LLCs, all controlled by her, had purchased parcels surrounding my land over 18 months. Rex's aerial photos clearly showed the pattern. Vivian owned properties on 3 sides of my land. Her master plan wasn't about road access. The goal was to create luxury estate lots by combining smaller parcels. My 3-acre Keystone property was the only thing standing between her and a multi-million-dollar development deal. Back in my contractor days, I'd seen developers use a similar strategy, known as assemblage, where they secretly buy up adjacent properties to create larger development parcels. The last holdout always faces maximum pressure because without their cooperation, the entire investment becomes worthless. That's when the sabotage started. Thursday morning brought the acrid smell of dying St. Augustine grass and wilted rose bushes. Our irrigation system had failed during a brutal Texas heat wave. When I traced the problem, I found that someone had deliberately cut our main water line where it crossed under the new asphalt with surgical precision. Before I could even call a plumber, my phone rang. "Mr. Rockwell," came Vivian's voice, dripping with mock concern. "I understand you're planning to destroy community infrastructure. That will require board approval and a $5,000 damage deposit." The woman had sabotaged my property, then tried to extort me for fixing her damage. It was like being mugged by someone who then offers to sell you a bandage at premium prices. Patton and Associates escalated that same week, filing a preliminary injunction to prevent me from interfering with community road maintenance. They wanted a judge to order the immediate removal of my survey stakes and private property signs, claiming they constituted harassment of HOA members. I recognize this legal strategy from construction disputes. Tie up property owners in expensive court battles while continuing the behavior you're being sued for. It's designed to exhaust your opponent's wallet before the actual case begins. But something beautiful was happening in the neighborhood. Not everyone was drinking Vivian's Kool-Aid. Marcus Webb, a retired Marine, quietly offered to install security cameras. Dr. Patricia Hernandez shared horror stories that made my situation look like amateur hour. Janet Kowalski, a teacher with organizational skills that would make the Pentagon jealous, revealed that Vivian had tried to lowball her corner lot for half its market value. When Janet refused, her garbage pickup mysteriously started getting missed every other week. The pattern was becoming clear. Vivian wasn't just targeting me. She was systematically harassing anyone who wouldn't sell. The tax assessment bomb dropped Friday afternoon. The county had reevaluated my property based on the road improvements, jumping my annual taxes from $4,200 to $7,800. The appeals process required paying the disputed amount up front, another financial pressure tactic. That evening, Elena and I sat on our back porch watching sunset through a haze of construction dust and exhaust fumes. Our peaceful evening air now carried the constant rumble of traffic and shouts from teenagers treating our community road like their personal skate park. "She's getting desperate," Elena observed, watching another group of HOA supporters photograph our house from the road. "Good," I replied, texting Rex for an update. "Desperate people make stupid mistakes." Word count 799 out of 800. Cayenne. Them humorous aides paparazzi. Fishbowl freeze hell knowledge nugget 2 neon. Assemblage emotional impact Manghon Sophia's reaction. Ending cop punch for foreshadowing sensory details. Fong Fu Hon Vivan's next move was pure theater. She arranged what she called an informal mediation session at the county commissioner's office. The invitation arrived on official letterhead, which should have been my first red flag in my construction days. Any meeting labeled informal usually meant someone was about to get formally screwed. I walked into that conference room expecting a reasonable discussion and instead found myself facing what looked like a corporate takeover meeting. 12 HOA board members, Vivian's attorney, and a presentation folder thick enough to stop bullets. The commissioners sat there looking like hostages at their own meeting while Vivian launched into a PowerPoint presentation about community impact assessment. Her proposal was insulting in its mathematical audacity. I should sell my road easement to the HOA for $15,000. $15,000 for property worth at least $80,000. The woman was essentially asking me to pay her for the privilege of being legally mugged. "This is a generous offer considering the legal complications your obstruction has created," Vivian said, sliding the folder across the table like she was doing me the favor of a lifetime. The smell of her expensive perfume couldn't mask the stench of desperation filling that room. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and delivered what I hoped was a dignified response. "I'll consider your offer right after you consider my counter-proposal of $0 and a public apology." Then I walked out, leaving them to explain to the commissioners why they'd wasted everyone's time with legal theater. The real war began the next week with a front-page newspaper article, "Property Dispute Divides Willowbrook Community." Vivian had clearly spent hours coaching the reporter, painting herself as a reasonable community leader dealing with one selfish neighbor blocking progress. I got exactly one paragraph to defend myself, buried on page 2 between a church bake sale announcement and a lost dog notice. The aerial photograph they printed was a masterpiece of propaganda. My house looking like a stubborn holdout island surrounded by modern progress. The online comments section became a digital gladiator arena where neighbors I'd never met debated my character, my finances, and Elena's choice of garden decorations. While Vivian played media mogul, I was methodically building my counteroffensive. Those trail cameras Marcus had installed were better than Christmas morning every day. Over 3 weeks, I captured footage of Vivian's crew removing my survey markers at 2 a.m., dumping construction debris on my land, and my personal favorite, their security guard harassing Sophia and her friends while they tried to check our mailbox. But Vivian's psychological warfare was expanding beyond property lines. My homeowner's insurance company suddenly discovered that increased traffic created commercial liability exposure and demanded an additional $4,000 per year, based on an anonymous complaint about unsafe conditions. Naturally, during my contractor years, I'd learned that when someone tries to systematically destroy your financial stability from multiple angles simultaneously, they're working from a playbook. This wasn't random harassment. It was a coordinated campaign designed to force a quick sale. The workplace intimidation confirmed my suspicions. Elena came home pale and shaking after an informal chat with a school board member who lived in our subdivision. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint suggesting that her husband's hostile legal behavior might reflect poorly on her professional judgment as an educator. I'd seen this tactic during union disputes. When you can't break someone directly, you target their family's livelihood. What Vivian didn't realize was that workplace intimidation falls under federal civil rights law when used to coerce property transactions. She was accidentally building my lawsuit for me. Her legal Hail Mary came through a city planning commission petition to reclassify my road as public thoroughfare. If successful, the city could force me to surrender the road through eminent domain for token compensation, maybe $1 like those historical precedents where government seized private land for public projects. The public hearing was scheduled for next month, giving Vivian time to pack the room with angry neighbors, demanding I sacrifice my property rights for their convenience. But my secret weapon was growing stronger. Dr. Hernandez had been quietly researching property law and sharing precedents that made Vivian's case look like Swiss cheese. Marcus provided military-grade security documentation of every harassment incident. Janet had started a social media counter-campaign revealing the truth about Vivian's shell company property acquisitions. Rex's financial deep dive revealed the smoking gun. Vivian was hemorrhaging money faster than a broken fire hydrant. Her shell companies owed $340,000 to multiple lenders. Her credit cards were maxed at $67,000, and her real estate license was under state investigation for undisclosed conflicts of interest. The woman was 90 days from bankruptcy unless she could flip enough properties to cover her gambling losses. My refusal to sell wasn't just blocking her development dreams. It was threatening her financial survival. Friday brought the utility warfare. Anonymous complaints about my power lines crossing Community Road triggered an $8,500 relocation study demand. My internet mysteriously failed the same week, requiring expensive repairs across the new asphalt. That evening, Elena found a note tucked under her car windshield at school. "Stop your husband before this gets worse." She handed me the note with steady hands, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "She's getting desperate." "Good," I replied, photographing the evidence. "Desperate people make career-ending mistakes. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen in the least likely places." Rex found our smoking gun in the courthouse basement, buried in a filing cabinet that probably hadn't been opened since Reagan was president. The musty smell of decades-old paper and dust made him sneeze for an hour. But what he discovered made every allergic reaction worth it. George Blackwood, that brilliant old rancher, had been playing four-dimensional chess back in 1987. The original deed restrictions contained language that would make any property lawyer weep with pure joy. Access road shall remain private property in perpetuity, not subject to any homeowner association covenants, assessments, or interference whatsoever. In perpetuity, forever until the stars burn out in Texas freezes over. The document was notarized, filed in triplicate, and cross-referenced with the county surveyor's office. George had specifically included language preventing any future HOA claims, using what he colorfully described as protection against neighborhood busybody interference with a man's God-given right to drive on his own damn land. I was ready to build a